All right. Well, good morning and happy New Year, Gente.
Good morning. Happy New Year to you. Yeah, I realize for us, we're recording this right after the new year. For others, they probably aren't, it's not likely to get up for a couple more weeks. So, everyone else, you're probably already into your new year for a few weeks and hope everything is
Yes.
going well.
Happy middle of January for the rest of you.
Yeah,
Or if you are new to the podcast, happy 8 months from now.
exactly.
So
Happy whenever this is for you.
I hope everybody is enjoying the start of winter now that the solstice has passed us. And as always, we love to get ourselves into a good, open, receptive, meditative headspace where our guides can come through and help direct the conversation. And hopefully, we can be of better service to all of you who are listening. So, Jen, would you mind? I'm so excited to get to hear you sing. It's been a couple of weeks. Would you mind opening this up for us?
Oh, of course. So the holidays have been a little challenging, and so I have really fallen back into really heavily utilizing the Himalayan bowls that I have. Actually, these are specifically Nepalese bowls, and playing the two of them together and sounding. And I've really been reminded how much healing and shifting it brings through for me. And so I set those up today to accompany me and support me in bringing through a really good healing space for everybody today. So the song at the beginning will have a little extra accompaniment this morning.
That was freaking gorgeous. I could just listen to that on repeat all day. I feel like my soul is settling down.
I'm so glad.
Um,
It was good for me. Oh,
that was incredible. Um, so I had a seraphim holding forth as you were singing, and he was not talking to me, he was talking to our listeners. And a lot of times he says things to you or he says things to me, but this appeared to be something for everyone listening. He says, greetings to you, greetings to you. The angels rejoice in the steps you will take ahead. Your ancestors dance. It is time. It is time. Shake off the chains made of things you were told you must be. Lay down your burdens in the name of your truth. The temple is and has been open to you. Find the courage to walk among its trees, its falling water, its wind and rain. Raise your voice, beat your drum. Together, we will rebel and find healing in the face of those who would hinder us. For you are holy, holy, holy. You are made divine. I am your messenger, and I say this unto you. To laugh in the face of unchanging power is to become truly free.
wow.
He is very spirited today. And I found it interesting when someone says a temple is open, I picture a building. But his
Yes.
description, it appears that the temple is out in nature, walk among its trees, its falling water, its wind and rain.
Yeah, I that struck me as well. I was thinking, yeah, I was like temple, and I started picturing this temple, and then I thought, well, of course, the most true temple would be one that is made entirely of the divine materials. It would be in the wild, not something that man has necessarily created.
Yeah, that was the most chatty he's been in quite some time. I have been being encouraged to rest and turn inward, and I have spent a couple of weeks doing that. And boy, has it given me my groove back
Yay.
just to have some days where I get up and go, there is absolutely nothing that has to happen today other than I need to get good rest. I need to get good food in my body and I need to locate some laughter. So I've been
Yes.
just writing. I mean, yesterday I think I must have written for like 4 or 5 hours straight with no break. So it's been good.
I love that you mentioned laughter as well, because that is another thing that I've kind of rediscovered during this extremely challenging holiday period is laughter. Like, and it's funny because, part of the challenge has been that COVID came into our house on Christmas Day.
Oof.
And I guess it had been here and being spread, but on Christmas Day, our guests tested and we realized that we were all exposed to COVID. So I've been really paying attention to how to keep my energy high, how to keep my system going. And it's been really amazing in that I would recognize, okay, I've been super hyper vigilant about my what state is my energy in. And because of a whole lot of additional challenges, it's been harder to keep it up. And one of the things I would realize, I would start getting like the tiniest bit of symptoms. Like I'd get a little bit of drainage in my throat and my nose would start to run a little bit. And I would think, I have to do something right this minute. Like I need to catch it immediately. And we went and found this comedian and we're listening to this stand-up comedian and laughed for like an hour and a half. At the end of that time, all the symptoms were gone. And it has been crazy. I've been watching my body go from, oh, I feel like it's starting to set in, to completely gone again, and have maintained complete health this entire time. And now I think we're like 8 or 9 days past the exposure. So I feel like we're going to be good, but it's been really amazing. Or I would dance and go, okay, I would feel it and think, no, I have to let all of this stuff go. I'm going to let go of all the feeling. I'm going to process all the feelings. I'm going to let it all go and I'm going to get back in the flow. And at the end of the dance, sometimes I only manage 5 minutes. But I thought, you know what? I can still dance for 5 minutes and it will make a difference. And every time, not only did I just generally feel like a different person at the end of it, my body would respond and go, oh, okay. So I don't think we need to go down with this. I think we're all right. It has been just wild. So when you said laughter, I was like, oh my gosh, laughter. Like I've rediscovered the healing on all levels that comes from laughter.
Yeah. I didn't realize because I had really run myself down during spooky season. And then I went right into all these holiday markets. And I would put out a lot of energy at these things, setting up, taking down, and then talking to everybody when I was at them. And a lot of times I would come home and my brain thought, okay, you need to eat food, you need to get some sleep. But I would forget that I also needed to enjoy myself in order to heal. And so, as I've been writing over these last days, for those of you who haven't read any of the fiction that I write, a lot of the characters are in the middle of a war, or there's some heavy stuff going down. And so I try to put bright spots in their relationships and conversations. Just so when you're reading, you're not like, okay, this is so emotionally heavy that I can't keep going, that there'll be these, little moments of comedy or little moments of light. And so when I'm writing, I'm always on the lookout for what is a funny or a sweet twist to add in. I think because of my background in theater, I often really inhabit the emotional headspace of a character that I'm writing in order to make their conversations convincing. It's basically just like improvisation on paper. And so if the characters are going through something tragic, I'm sitting there crying my eyes out. And if they are having a great time, then I'm laughing. And I started realizing how much more laughter I needed to put into the writing. And so it was forcing me to go and look for things that I found funny or that I found amusing as seeds to get this going. I've just been doing a lot more laughing lately and I feel fantastic. So
That's fantastic. And I know it sounds like you've discovered a lot of new habit sorts of things that you were going to share with us today, too, which I'm really
yes.
excited to hear about.
So a little bit of backstory on this. I am what my husband calls a sprinter. Okay. If there is a choice in our house between consistently loading the dishwasher every day or taking on the project of painting a room entirely, I will always pick the room. I get bored very easily. I always want to try new things, often to the detriment of the routines that I need to keep my life stable and moving forward. Loading the dishwasher is boring. Of course it is. You've done it a million times. And so I want to do this big, heavy, goal oriented lift that only has to be done once. And when I'm done, the living room will look fantastic, but we have no clean dishes or frying pans. So I am that sprinter, and it transfers into daily life habits as well, where my body is concerned and where my self care is concerned, where I will declare, I am going to get on the treadmill every single day and I'm going to do a couple of miles. And he says, slow down. You want to make this sustainable. Why don't you do a quarter of that mileage and do it 3 days a week to start instead of going in blazing and then flaming out spectacularly in 10 days and then you're right back to not exercising. And I never follow his advice ever. Um, that's just not how I've always been. And then I get really frustrated with myself because January 1st rolls around and everyone's making New Year's resolutions. And I have all these huge goals. This is the year I'm finally not going to murder my house plants from neglect. This is the year that I am going to cut out all sugar and eat nothing but fiber and protein. This is the year that my kitchen will be spotless every night. And then there's this is the year that I'm going to lose weight. Okay. All of these things. And then every year I am disappointed by the end of January. And I feel terrible about myself because once more I have failed. So I was on the phone with a friend of mine and she listens to the podcast. So I am totally going to give her a shout out here. Her name is Jennifer Rackow. She has been a dear friend of mine for a very long time. And he is one of these people who seems to be able to sustain good habits effortlessly for years. Jen and I went to college together, and I think she's like a year and a half younger than I am. Right now, she's listening to the podcast and shouting at me, "How come you can never remember this?" I think she's like a year younger than I am. But if you looked at us standing side by side, I look like I'm 10 years older than I am. And she looks like she graduated college 4 years ago because she takes care of herself. She walks every single day. When we go out to lunch, she is the quinoa and spinach bowl person at the table, whereas I have extra cheese on that burger, please. She has an extremely busy life and also finds time to volunteer and seems to have boundless energy. And I can't fathom, how do you pull that off? How can you sustain that over years and years? And side note, Jen actually coaches both individuals and organizations in looking at how they're set up and structured and where they want to go next. And so she is an incredible person to seek advice from in this area.
Yes, I'm so glad that you said that. She is amazing. I have to say, she did a consultation for me for my business, and I was completely blown away by practically everything that she said, because I went into it thinking, oh, I know she's going to tell me I have to do this and this and this, and they're all things that I don't want to do. And it was a totally different way of looking at everything and really changed my perspective and the way that I looked at growing my business and the techniques and the avenues for it. It was so different than anything else I had read or heard or been told.
And I'll put information on how to contact her in our show notes section. So if you are wanting to turn over a new leaf this year, or your organization wants to get some professional development hours in, I highly recommend her. I have sought her out so many times, both personally and professionally.
You said that so professionally. It sounds like we're now like getting sponsors or something. Like we're now doing ads for people. But I swear we're not. Although, wow, how cool would it be if we were so big that we actually had like sponsors and stuff. But I'm so glad that you thought about that and that you can share her information, because she is a really awesome resource.
So I happened to be on the phone with her the other day, and I said, "Here comes the new year." And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Once again, I am going to try to start 8 new habits, and I am probably going to fail miserably by January." And I said, "I have to tell you, I really admire you. I don't know how you are so consistent at, like, you decide something is going to change and then you pull it off." And she said it's a gift of hers, but she also has tons and tons of resources because this is also her business. And I said, "I'm a sprinter. I can only go about 50 meters and then I'm done." And I said, "I wish I could do what you seem to naturally do." And she said, "Well, there's this book you might want to take a look at." And she said it was recommended to me. And when I read it, I went, "Oh, of course, of course, of course, I do all that stuff." But it sounds like maybe you don't do all of that stuff. And I said, "Give me the title. It will be downloaded as soon as this conversation is over." So it is called Atomic Habits: clear. There is more than one Atomic Habits if you go look up the book online. And so I want to tell you the one that I'm reading is the James Clear one. And I popped it open and started going through it. And I'm only a few chapters in. I swear to you, this is not going to be a book review or a full on book report. You guys can keep going if you like the ideas that we're going to put forth here. First couple of chapters just rocked my world. And I realized that it wasn't that I couldn't pull off change. It was that I was thinking about the process 100% backwards. And that was why I was failing. And so there are three topics that come up early on in the book. And then he spends a lot of the rest of the book telling you, he goes into depth about how to address these things. But I wanted to bring them up on the podcast today, both to sort of see, Jen, what you thought of them and to talk about the deeper spiritual aspects of them. And also because I thought they might be really intriguing to people out there who do the same thing that I do every year and go, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to lose 40 pounds, all of these things. But in their heart, they're feeling, oh, God, why bother? Right? I keep trying and I keep not being happy with my results. So there are three things I want to talk about today: increments, not having any goals, which I know is going to, I think, Jen, you're going to love this idea, and the concept of identity. So everybody got their seatbelts on.
Yeah, I am
All right.
ready. I'm
So
excited.
here we go. So one of the stories, and he's got great stories in this book, but one of the first stories that he tells is about the British cycling team. Now, I do not have a good head for details. So if you guys get this book and read it after me and go, oh my God, Tava, you told the whole story wrong, just keep in mind it's the general, you'll get the idea, right? But don't hold me to my details. Okay. What he did was he talked about the British cycling team, and the British cycling team was terrible. I mean, terrible. They had never won a Tour de France in like 150 years. They had gone to the Olympics and they had won one medal or something in all like in the last 40, 50 years. And everyone else in Europe was just zooming past them. They were so bad that there was a biking and equipment manufacturer in Europe who refused to sell them bicycles because they didn't want to be associated with them because of how bad their record was.
Oh my
Okay. So,
goodness. That's terrible.
okay. And I think this was maybe about 15 years ago or something. Again, don't hold me to the exact number. So the British cycling team was the laughing stock of cycling. And they decided to bring in this guy who is a specialist in improvement. Okay. So his idea was this. We always have this idea that we need to suddenly transform. Today is the day I eliminate this thing from my life. And in some cases, like if you're quitting smoking, there are people where you just need to go cold turkey. So that may be slightly different depending on you and your personality. Think about it in terms of, say, like weight loss or having a clean house. Rather than make a huge sweeping change, which is very, very difficult to pull off and very difficult to maintain, and you're exhausted once you do it. He said, if you can change and make yourself 1% better every day, over time, that 1% is going to compound itself. If I have 100 visits to my website, 1% of 100 is one. So imagine I wanted to get 1% more visits to my website every week. Then I have 101. Then I have 102. Well, by the time I hit the number 500, now 1% is five, right? It's getting better. If you think about it in terms of your body, if I can make each of my fingers 1% more effective, that's 10%. So these things compound. And so he went into the organization and he got hold of everyone and he said, we're going to figure out how to be 1% better every day. And everybody said, dude, how's that going to make us win a gold medal? And he said, trust me on this. You got nothing to lose at this point. Okay. And so they made a list of improvements, no matter how silly they sounded. They repainted the inside of the trailer so that they could better see dust on their bicycles. They tested outdoor cycling equipment with indoor cycling, like with clothing, to see which one was more wind resistant. They brought in a surgeon to teach cyclists how to properly wash their hands so they wouldn't get sick as often. All of these tiny little things that don't seem to have a lot to do with cycling. Within a few years, they went back to the Olympics and they swept 60% of the cycling medals. They
Wow.
went and for the next six Tour de France's, the British team won five of them. They started breaking
Wow.
world records. And it was these tiny, tiny changes. Tiny changes let you see immediate results, right? Not only is the change helping you and compounding, but it's building your confidence and your positivity that things can change. He says, now you have to have patience to work like this because there are certain, it's hard to see the change. They showed up at the Olympics, everybody thought they were an overnight success. There was nothing overnight about it. They'd been doing 1% better a day for years. And he told this and had this other analogy. He said, if you sit in a very cold room with an ice cube and you watch it and say it's 25 degrees in the room, the ice doesn't melt at 25 degrees. You raise it another degree, it doesn't melt at 26, it doesn't melt at 27. It doesn't start to melt. And then suddenly, at about 32 degrees, there's a change you can see. He said, what happens a lot of times to us is we go, I'm going to go to the gym for a week. And we go and we work really hard and we tear a muscle and we blow out our knee. And then we don't see any change in a week and we go, that's it, I'm done. He said, that's not how change works. You have to say, I'm going to get my butt in the door and I'm going to do a little bit better every day. So I started deciding to try to put this into effect over the holidays. I used to go water walk. I have a terrible knee, but I have gotten some new tattoos lately and you can't merge them for a while. I don't like the treadmill because I failed on it so many times. So my first day, my increment was just stand on the treadmill. And then I got up there and that felt stupid. So I actually walked for 5 minutes. And then the next day I did 10. And now you can see me. I'm already going from 0 to 10 minutes, right? That's a little bit too much. But what I decided to do was I put on a pedometer. Just ordering the pedometer was a small increment. And I recorded my mileage for 3 days and divided it by three to get an average. And my goal is not to immediately hit 8,000 steps, but to simply be slightly higher than the number of the day before. Tiny, tiny little things. He says that is how long term change happens. So before I go on to no goals, Jen, I'd love to know what you think of that or if you've had any experience in that area.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. I think that's really, really huge. And that idea of just 1% better, because even when I think about increments, I wouldn't have gone to 1%. I would have been like, okay, so we'll do maybe 20% if I'm really going to keep it low, kind of thing. So I think I really love the idea of the tiny, tiny bit. And one of the things that really sparked something in me when you were talking about the ice cube and how there's this long period of time when you don't see the change happening yet. I know there are a lot of people that talk about in the kind of energetic sense that's the case, that when things are changing and shifting, and in the idea of, I know I talk a lot about this with you and Marco's and in conversations about the shamanic principle of dreaming the world into being. And that our thoughts and the energy that we put out there is making a difference. We may be doing it by default. We are all dreaming our world into existence. We are all creating our reality. It's just that most of us are doing it by default and not recognizing the power that we have in it. And what tends to happen is that, when we start recognizing our creative power and that we have the ability genuinely to shift our perspective and our reality, our actual see it, feel it, taste it, touch it kind of reality. So we start doing it more consciously. There's this period of that as well too, where it's like, okay, I am focusing on higher vibration thoughts. I'm letting go of, I'm getting a little bit better and a little bit better at going, no, I'm going to sit down Facebook and I'm going to just breathe for a few minutes, or I'm just going to sing for a few minutes, or maybe I'm just going to 3 times and then I'll see what I feel like doing next. We start building momentum, but that momentum is often, it's being built in the unseen realms, in the energetic realms. And we may be getting, I know Abraham Hicks talks about this a lot, where it's like you get to this tipping point, and often people get, just if you could see from the perspective of Samael or these beings who have the vision of seeing everything that's happening in the unseen world and the unseen realms and the spiritual realms and energetic realms, and can see what we see in this physically manifested version. It's like you're building, so you're like almost there. It's like planting a seed, and then you look at the ground and it's like, well, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Like, it's not. And then deciding to abandon the garden the day before the sprout was just about to poke through the surface. When we reach that point, it's so many of us, we are really making genuine progress in the evolution of our souls and our spirits and the manifestation of the things that we want to bring through in our lives. But we stop just at like the cusp, like just before things were going to break through and we were going to start really seeing the results and the effects of it. And it makes so much sense. I love that. That was what I kept thinking when you were talking about the ice cube, or you go to the gym and for a week and then go, oh, look, I don't look any different. It's all cumulative. And then there does seem to be this point where all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, look at what I just did. Look at the progress. But it's so gradual.
Yeah. Especially in the area of, say, like losing weight. Okay. I'm not talking about losing weight to like body shame anybody or anything. I personally need to lose weight for my health. I have a heart issue that I was born with, and I tend to have these episodes. It's not life threatening, but such a drag, and it doesn't feel good when it happens. I'm noticing when I am able to be at a lower weight, that does not happen nearly as often. I can look at a calendar and say, when I'm taking care of myself, when my stress is lower, when I'm eating better, when I'm getting enough sleep, when my weight is on the way down, from the data, I have less of these horrible health issues to deal with that impact the way that I go through the day. That's one of the reasons why losing weight is always on my list. The next thing that he talks about is goals. And we always start off the new year, or at least I do. My goal is to do X. My goal is to be able to water ski, or my goal is to be able to do these things. And he came back, he said, instead of goals, we need to look at systems. Goals don't often work. And he said, here's why. He said, if you think about the Olympics, every single person who shows up at the Olympics to compete has the exact same goal. I want to win a gold medal. Nobody shows up at the Olympics and says, man, I really want to come in 12th, right? Everybody is there. They trained and they worked hard and they spent their money and they did all of these things to win a gold. How many people can win a gold medal? In each category, there's going to be one, which means everyone else, no matter, even though they're an incredible athlete, they're an Olympic qualifying athlete, has failed to meet their goal, right? And in our brains, when we have this or concept, and I know we've talked about or before on this podcast, I either won or I failed. And when you set goals and can't meet them, you are disregarding all of the progress. You're not celebrating all of the things that made you win a bronze or made you come in 12th. Man, if I even get to look at an Olympic athlete, like that's a huge achievement for me. Can you imagine being one? So he talks about setting these goals as being self defeating. They automatically put you in a frame of mind where you're worried about failure, where you might think of yourself as a failure. He also talks about that goals are finite. He says, imagine that he said there's so many people who say, I want to run a marathon, and the marathon is the goal. And then once they run the marathon, they're like, okay, I'm at the goal, and they stop training and they don't run anymore. They're not exercising anymore, right? They saw the goal, they met it, it's done, it's in the past. He says instead we need to think in terms of systems. Okay? Your goal is not to run a marathon. Your goal is to become a runner, right? Your goal is to achieve better health. Your goal is to reach out farther into your community. I apologize because I can't remember who said it. But there was someone, and I believe he is an Olympic trainer, and he said the golds take care of themselves. That if you instead look at your systems and where you want to simply perform better and maintaining that performance, that's the overarching path that you're on instead of that finite goal where you win or you lose. You are setting yourself up for much more success because continuing that 1% to improve the systems that you use in your daily life will continue even after the event is over. And you'll be focused on these systems. Wow, I might not have won the race, but I am so much healthier was when I started, and everything around me is running better. He said he talked about the fact that habits are they're basically learned responses to take shortcuts in your environment. He talked about this scientist who did work with cats who wanted to do something with learning. And he would put cat in a box. And there were lots of ways out of the box. There were little levers, there was a little string you could pull. And outside the box, the cat could see a dish of food. And he would put the cat in the box, and the cat would immediately start exploring the box. And then eventually it would trip something that would open the door, and the cat could run over and eat the food. And he did this over and over and over and over. And he logged the results. And what he found was that the first time any cat was put into box, it took the cat about a minute and a half to find a way out and find its reward. But the more times he put the cat into the box, the more the time started to go down to the point where it would take about 6 seconds for the cat, who had now learned what it needed to do to get out of the box, to trip the lever and go find the food. And he said, this is what habits are. There is something in your past that said to you, look, most of your brain power is needed to figure out complex things that you haven't experienced before. Let's automate the stuff that you already know how to do to reach a reward faster. And that is what a habit is. So, your brain wants to feel good, right? It wants to find the reward. We are constantly, as humans, scanning the environment for rewards. Where am I going to get praise? Where am I going to get a treat? Where am I going to get a break? When am I going to have some me time? And over time, we built this series of habits that we didn't have to think about in order to get a reward. These become our habits. Now, what happens over time is maybe the reward isn't really a reward anymore, right? Me going, oh man, I'm so stressed. Cookie's a reward. What can I do to quickly get the cookie? Okay. What I needed to do to get the cookie was different when I was a child than what it is when I'm an adult and I have unfettered access to cookies. So he talks about thinking of habits as these sort of conditioned, quick shortcuts that our brain has set up over time so that we can spend more of our brain power dealing with new things. And so we don't think about them, we just do them. And so part of this book is talking about what exactly a habit is and seeing that it's actually something we set up at one point to benefit us. Now it might not be serving us anymore. And that the way to change that is not simply to set a goal and motor through it, but instead to look at the systems around us that we can improve a little at a time and move forward from there. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this stuff.
I really like that. I was like, I have to get this book. And I believe that this is the same book that my other really good friend, Austin, is always has been telling me. And I'm pretty confident when you said you were reading this book about habits, I thought, I bet I know exactly what that is because my friend Austin has been telling me, you have to get this book. You have to get this book. So I am super excited to get this book and start. I really like the idea of the not goals thing or
Yeah.
like having a different, broader kind of goal. And I find that I've worked and wrestled with that for a number of years because in a lot of the things where they're talking about manifesting things in your life and whatever, they say you need to have a really clear goal, like know every sort of aspect of it, of what it is that you want to achieve, whether it's see the house that you want to live in or see your ideal job or whatever that is. And my struggle with that has been like in Reiki sessions, for example, or any kind of healing session or even ceremony. The idea is you have a goal. Somebody may come and be saying, I have cancer and I want to heal and I want to get better. And a lot of times within those kinds of things, there may be, but I really don't want to lose my hair. I really want to keep my hair through all of the treatments and stuff, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to want. But anytime we start putting restrictions around it, around the idea of this is how it needs to go, this is what it needs to look like, we limit the amount of healing and the possibility and the transformation that can come through. And there's an incredible story that Laurel Shantigaya tells in her book about Karuna Reiki of somebody who would come to her with exactly that, saying, I have cancer. And she had worked with her, I think through actually a past cancer diagnosis, and she had come through it and she'd done really well. And she was like, I don't want to lose my hair. Will you please just put out there as the request to the guides and the goal for this session to bring through healing for me during these treatments, but that I not lose my hair. And it seemed like a very sort of thing to say. It's like, sure. And I think a lot of people would have been inclined to say, sure, we'll put that in there. We'll ask that not happen. And instead, Laurel Shantigaya said, it's really not in our best interest to limit the healing, to limit and put parameters on this is what it needs to look like. And I know that sounds like the best thing, but we don't have the full picture. We don't know what the highest good really is. And it's really important for the highest possible amount of healing and good for you, we need to remain open. And what ended up happening was she did go through the treatment. She did lose her hair. And someone had referred her to this wig maker who was apparently amazing and worked with lots and lots of cancer. As she was getting fitted for this wig and picking out this wig, she was talking to the woman about the type of cancer she had. And she said, oh my goodness, I know someone who participated in this like trial. And again, if you've read this book, do not hold me to the details, like Tava was saying. But the gist of it's what we're going for. It was like, I know of this treatment for this exact type of cancer that was a very rare kind of thing. And so she shifted gears and went to see that person and was completely healed of it. Like they had the new treatment. She was completely healed of it. And if she hadn't lost her hair, she never would have gone to the wig maker who had that connection of exactly the thing. And so that's the kind of way that I tend to look at my big goals for the future, making a vision board and putting all those things out there. While I know it's really important for us to dream our future, there's always that part of me that's like, I don't want to limit it. I don't want to decide it has to be this or that, or to miss a massive opportunity for transformation by thinking that I know what's in my highest good. And I think that the idea of not having a specific goal, and I've gotten to where people are like, what are your goals for your business? What are your goals for things? You're not going to like this if you're somebody who's very goal oriented, but my goal is just to do the highest good, to bring through the highest good that I can, the most healing and light and information for those that are in alignment with receiving it. So I like the idea of setting goals that are more about who you want to be and how you want to be in your life, as opposed to what that's going to look like in a specific way. I want to be more of my authentic self. I want to live more in my knowledge of my divinity and share that and keep that as a much broader thing than limiting it to, I want to lose 5 pounds, or I want to be recognized as the greatest this, that, or the other in my field, or whatever those things are.
You are going to love the next part then. You did the
All
perfect
right.
segue. Before I get into it, I was sitting here laughing when you were talking about being very attached to hair. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but in case you didn't hear the episode, and I don't know which one it is where I mentioned this, I had a brain tumor back in 2000. And I remember because they were going to have to shave my head to do surgery. And they said, you can either shave your whole head or try to keep the hair in the back. And because I was attached to the idea of not losing all my hair, I said, just do the front. I had ideas and I was sticking to them. Okay. So when you go in for brain surgery, they dip basically your whole head in this yellow sticky ink. They did not tell me this before they did it, probably because I had other things on my mind, like I was going blind at the time, right? But I come out of the surgery and now I'm in the hospital for weeks and weeks. And the hair that I have left is basically encased in this yellow, nasty, sticky stuff that was, and it was an antiseptic so that I didn't have, end up with germs in my brain while they were doing surgery and die from it.
Yeah, kind
So it
of
was
important.
100% necessary. But I spent weeks in the hospital with this nasty mess on the back of my head. And then my brain surgeon, I said, oh God, like, can we take a comb and comb it out? And he said, I don't want you to wash your head for another month.
Oh.
And it was like, I remember trying to get the stuff out, but I wasn't allowed to put my head in a tub of water because of all the sutures and everything. And even worse, my rest of my hair started growing out around the scar, and I had the worst mullet you have ever seen on an individual. Okay. So I look like, I mean, it was, I know a lot of people dig mullets, but this was not business in front, party in the back. This was just tragic. Okay. And I remember, I mean, I will remember till my dying day, the relief on the day when I was finally allowed to get in a shower and shampoo my hair. And apparently this was something, I mean, my brain surgeon was brilliant and saved my vision and everything else. But I remember talking to other people who had brain surgery after that, and they were like, my surgeon didn't make me not wash my head for a month. And I'm like, oh God. It was like almost 2 months where I just couldn't get the antiseptic out of my hair. So here's the thing. If I had not decided that things had to be one way, we could have just shaved the whole thing in the beginning and that wouldn't have happened. So, just stay open, people, to possibilities that you might not have thought of before. Sometimes the thing that you think sounds bad is actually the lesser bad of the two or choices. Thank you so much for listening to part one. We will have part 2 for you next week, in which Samael and Jen start composing music together while I sit there and eat Doritos.
And by the way, the only way that we are able to compose music together is because you are not eating Doritos. You are sitting there channeling a seraphim and writing feverishly to get all of this information so that it can come through. You have a very important part in this.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We hope you have a wonderful week, and we can't wait to get together with you again.